Sure.
Yeah.
Yeah, all right. Here, why don't we give you a copy of this? These are the complaints against Kaplan. These are today's hearing are ongoing. But it just lists out, I've called you many times with the complaints against him. There's evidence of him providing false information on arrest warrant affidavit, doctoring up arrest warrants, driving to Hartford to documents against me, taking my children away for a complaint against them. That's all documented in there. If you have any questions, actually, I'll write my number down there. That helps. Great.
Do you want to review what I placed online? If you go to the hearings for today?
I did.
You did, so you've seen them.
I did, thank you. Thank you very much.
All right, thanks a lot.
Do you think you'll be reconfirmed?
I'm sorry?
Do you think Judge Kaplan will be reconfirmed?
Yeah.
You do?
Now, if you read that.
We'll see what happens.
I mean, it's in 30 years, has there been any judges that have been not confirmed?
I appreciate it.
Next is Stephen Erickson. Good evening, sir.
Good evening.
Please raise your right hand.
Stephen G. Erickson. I promise to tell the whole truth, nothing but the truth.
Well, let me do my part.
Okay.
Do you promise to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
Yes, sir.
All right. I have to actually allow me to say my part before you can admit to the oath.
Okay.
Would be happy to hear any comments you have, Mr. Erickson.
All right. The charges I was charged, I'll backtrack. My daughter and I came to Connecticut. I had hundreds of thousands of dollars I spent on fixing boarded up properties. I wanted to live here, retire here. I would retire in about 5 years comfortably, age 51. But I started making police misconduct complaints to Senator Guglielmo, and I proposed Civilian Oversight of Police. And I wrote the newspaper, and I guess that's a bad idea because I had police escorts wherever I went, so I should be the safest person in Connecticut. But I ended up having a person attack me on my property. Give me your money or I'll kill you, is what he said. I found out he was a state police informant. He was telling my tenants he was going to kill me, and he was just wouldn't stop harassing me. I would run from my house to the... well, anyway, he attacked me. I pepper sprayed him, and I got a year in prison. No record. And I would challenge anybody, has they ever put anybody in jail for breach of peace? It has to be in public. It was on my property that he attacked me, and my attacker wasn't even arrested. I had complained about Judge Kaplan trying to have him removed prior for a number of years. I'd gone to Senator Guglielmo. I've been writing in the paper, so he had to know who I was. And I wrote the docket number, my name, and is what I get in court, small claims, so I knew I would just, no matter, I'd file it anyway. So I couldn't get the police to do anything about the prostitutes. I had 3 of them in my properties, my rental properties. They didn't pay. They can just move in, change the locks. I couldn't get them out. So I was $2,000 it cost me for prostitutes I wasn't sleeping with. And I called the prosecutor, Keith Currier. I said, can you help me? The police aren't going to do anything. Can I directly go to you to prosecute somebody? So Lana Thompson goes all dolled up, everything showing, and high heels. And I talked to him, and he says, if you evict her, I'm going to have you arrested. I'm going to prosecute you. And police were around bragging that I was going to be going to prison, Big Mouth's going to be taught a lesson, blah, blah, blah. So when I got attacked, Keith Currier said, year and a half in jail, no deals. And I kept going there. And I got a lawyer, Attorney Agronoff, and I couldn't, why should I have been arrested? Why should there have been a trial? So I ended up leaving Connecticut because I was threatened with another arrest by Trooper McCahey, and almost no troopers get in trouble for anything in the state, but I guess he was so abusive, I guess he offered a crack cocaine addict, Peter Kukos, help in getting a gun permit to harass my 14-year-old daughter. He's threatening her sexually. And on YouTube, I have him where he's threatening her life. And I was told by Trooper McKay that I would be arrested if I did anything, so I left the state. And then it was like 7 times that the person who attacked me came after me, 7 more times, attacking me. So then I get to trial. After I'd moved out of state, I was, I lost hundreds of thousands of dollars, everything. And so when I went to trial, first thing Kaplan says is, "You're guilty, you're going to jail." A worker for the police ended up being on the jury. I tried to have him dismissed. There was a videotape that Kaplan later said was bad that said how to find you guilty, nothing about innocence or reasonable doubt. Well, the crux of my case is I wasn't allowed to defend myself. There was a thing in front of the jury with my properties. The tenant that I was evicting said she saw me get attacked on the property. In her house, in the dark, there's a house between. I asked Kaplan, can I go up to the front of the courtroom to point out that the person against me can't see through a house. I'm not guilty. I didn't do anything wrong. And so wasn't allowed to do that. My lawyer wasn't allowed to defend me. Wasn't allowed to say anything about the police, dispute them. They came armed to the trial, and they said, he's guilty, and my lawyer wasn't allowed to have any witnesses that saw everything and all the stalking, everything. So right before I was to be sentenced, the day before, I knew that the state police were in contact with Kaplan. I emailed Arthur L. Spada, the commissioner, that I wanted the state police, community policing taken off the website, and I mailed it to the U.S. Department of Justice. And I knew if he absolutely went off on me the next day, yelling and screaming and everything else, I knew that he had talked to the police, which is illegal collusion. So I'd like my docket looked at for his perjury to you today. And then at sentencing, I didn't tell him about the email.
I'd let you go on a little bit further.
Okay, at sentencing, I told him I lost $200,000 or more of my properties. Please, I want to see my daughter. I want to continue my contracting business. He gave me a year in jail.
Okay. Thank you for your testimony, Mr. Erickson. Do any members of the committee have any questions for Mr. Erickson? Representative Hetherington.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Mr. Erickson, was the I'm a little puzzled here. Was the year in jail as a result of the pepper spray incident? Yes. I see. You were sentenced on one occasion to a year in jail.
One occasion, just no probation.
Right.
My people that have had those charges on probation didn't go. It was overcrowded. My tenant broke into somebody's house, beat the guy because his wife was there.
Okay, but what I was trying to understand is there was only one criminal action that was brought against you. Is that right?
Yeah, I was mugged and I resisted, and I got a year in jail for that. Yes.
Now, the first encounter that you had with Judge Kaplan was in small claims court. Is that right?
Yeah. Contracting, you need to have fair courts. Yes.
Yeah. Okay.
Small
and
claims.
Judge Kaplan was presiding in small claims court.
Yes.
There was not a small claims court referee in that case instead of a judge?
Ms. Haas, I texted some ceilings for her, and she had heat things in the thing. She'd already gotten paid a number of times.
Yeah, well,
what I did is I complained about that case. I with the docket number and my name. He says that I did it honestly. No, I wasn't quiet. I can't be quiet to save my life. So.
But you're saying that Judge Kaplan actually was presiding in the small claims court matter, and then you ran into him again in the criminal court matter.
The criminal, I've been trying to have him removed for cases that were in the small claims and evictions and that type of thing.
But he sentenced you to the year in prison. Is that right?
Yes, he should have recused himself. Yes.
I mean, it's a remarkable coincidence. The judge that you ran into in small claims court is later sitting in the criminal part.
I agree. The Twilight Zone. Yeah.
Okay. Are you still a resident of Connecticut?
I was told upon release that if I did not leave Connecticut, I would be violated, I'd probably still be in jail, and I wouldn't be here in front of you. So I had to leave the state in order not to go to jail.
Okay. Thank you, Mr. Erickson. Thank you.
I'm sorry, did you have anything further,
No,
Representative?
thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Did anybody else have any questions?
Yeah, just
Representative Hewitt.
Just one quick question. Your name again? I forgot. I didn't get your name.
My name is Stephen with a V, middle initial G, Erickson is E-R-I-C-K-S-O-N.
Okay.
If you Google that, or if you Google Connecticut State Police misconduct, you'll get me. Or if you Google Connecticut Judicial misconduct, you might get me also.
Okay, Stephen with a V.
Yes.
Stephen, when the judge said to you that you're guilty and you're going to jail, were you in the courtroom at that time?
Yes, and I'm hoping the tape was on so he can be...
I'm hoping the tape was on. That would
Yes.
clear everything up.
Yes.
Were you represented by counsel?
Not very good one, it turns out. He said that he owed Kaplan a favor for having an improper relationship with a female client. He apologized to me before sentencing. He says, I was told that I couldn't...
Now, you do know you're making some serious allegations here.
Yes, so if I should be arrested and...
No, I didn't say that.
I am telling 100% the truth, and if...
Was the stenographer working that day?
Yes.
Did she get this on her record?
I hope so.
Well, those are things you should have bought with you. You know, that would make all of us...
I am such a pauper, it costs, what, $3 for a page?
Oh, okay. All right. No more questions. Thank you.
Is there anything further from members of the committee? If not, I want to thank you for your time, Mr. Erickson.
Can I just ask one thing? Can you please ask for the transcripts to see that what was said was true by that? And I also ask for remedy in my case, because you cannot get remedy in Connecticut courts. We'll just dismiss your case. So we have nobody except you to help us as citizens. As a constituent, you can be around the state. Britt Goldstein came to you in December '96 and asked for civilian oversight of police. He went to Sweden seeking political asylum. He was so terrified by police, and he came to you. I have that video on and that's what I did. That was what started my problem.
Thank you, Mr. Erickson. Next is Ron Patterson. Is Mr. Patterson here? Then Chris Kennedy. Good evening, Mr. Kennedy. It's good to see you again. Could you raise your right hand, please?
Sure.
Do you swear that the testimony you're about to give is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
Yes, I do.
Please have a seat.
Thank you. My name is Chris Kennedy. I run the Connecticut Civil Rights Council that actually was formed as a result of Judge Jonathan Kaplan's actions. What I wanted to present today, 3 minutes is not enough time to recount 5 years of abuse. But basically what I did is I compiled, I think, some pretty compelling evidence against Judge Kaplan. I submitted it to a couple members, but hopefully by now it's scanned in and you can all review it. Just a couple points here. The first page is just a transcript from the hearing on the appointment of Judge Howard Scheinblum, where a committee member says, we've appointed and appraised judges who have significant issues with demeanor. They're arrogant, pretentious, and even dishonest. And that we recently approved a judge who knowingly put a child back in harm's way instead of using their judicial latitude. It's just very discouraging to hear the committee members say that. I have to say, myself and Steve have approached you many times. Representative Lawler, I've tried to give you evidence and transcripts about Judge Kaplan and other judges that have committed fraud or committed crimes, and you've told me you're not interested. Twice you've sent me away saying you're not interested. I can't get the documents to you. It's very disturbing as a co-chair that you would not take these evidence. The second page is actually an article from the Hartford Current, where Judge Swords, under the in Rockville Court, where Judge Kaplan was the administrative judge, Judge Swords had problems last year, and the administrative judge that she went to correct her problems was actually Judge Kaplan. So it didn't seem to help too much. But there's just an article where she released a child molester. A man admitted to molesting a 3-year-old child, and she let that man walk. He doesn't even have wasn't even listed as a sex offender, and he openly admitted to it. to doing it. And it's just disturbing, again, that you would release, or you would approve a judge that would let a child molester walk out the door. The next page that I submitted is actually from Melissa Farley. She's the executive director of the Judicial Branch. And it just verifies that at Rockville Court, documents are being sealed. In particular, judicial review complaints are being placed in sealed envelopes in files of cases at Rockville Judicial Courthouse. So again, we have, under Judge Kaplan, cases are being sealed and being hidden from the public, and in particular, complaints against judges. Now, my first introduction with Judge Kaplan, it was a restraining order my ex-wife filed, to take away my children. There was no evidence of abuse. He did grant the restraining order suspending visitation with my son. I could have full contact with him if I ran into him at school or anywhere else, but I just couldn't. The visitation schedule was suspended. And it seemed like an abusive use of the restraining order, especially when the evidence didn't support it. But what was most disturbing was what Jonathan Kaplan went into. He started talking to me about, the war in Ireland. You need to resolve your issues like the war in Ireland. Telling me not to litigate a case, saying I'm guilty of a crime. If a warrant is written the right way, a judge will sign it, and I will be arrested. And again, I have the transcripts. You can review them. If a warrant is written the right way, he said, I presume you are guilty of committing a crime. Threats not to litigate my case, or I won't see my children, just as he did to a father just like me. Don't appeal my ruling. And that father just like me did not see his kids for several years, and today has no relationship with them. And that is the same situation with me. I have no relationship with my son for 5 years, thanks to Judge Kaplan. The most important issue, obviously there's not enough time, so you're going to have to read through this, please. Most important issue, that restraining order. It was filed by my former spouse. Judge Kaplan presided over the case and granted it. Now, the restraining order that was issued states that it was issued against the Leanna Putman, my ex-wife. The transcripts show that Judge Kaplan says, we tried to fix that, but there was a computer error. And so we couldn't resolve it, the clerk says. And so the judge says, well, that's a problem we'll just have to live with. We'll fix it in time. So here's a restraining order being issued against a person, against court orders, against Judge Kaplan's orders, that he's refusing to fix. Now, this is the administrative judge. Now, that judge, I filed a complaint against him, and he granted a second restraining order against me to take away my 2 daughters about 2 months later. And again, I've included that, and he met with the judge before the hearing, and he said to the judge made his ruling, the Judge Klazak, where he says, because of your complaint against Judge Kaplan, you suggest criminal charges be brought against him, and so I'm granting this restraining order. Now, the application has no children listed, there's no allegations of abuse, and yet he signed off on it. And so you don't even know who I'm restrained from. The children aren't even listed, but yet they took away my children. And so now, if that wasn't enough, the judge went through my court file in Rockville, went through my court file in Enfield. I had a pending criminal case there as well. Took those documents and drove down to Hartford, gave them to a prosecutor to have me arrested. Now, those documents, he knew that the restraining order was included in the arrest warrant, and also a contempt ruling against me that was overturned on appeal. Now, Judge Kaplan knew that these documents were false. So he purposely submitted documents to a state prosecutor to have me arrested, knowing that those documents were false. Now, that's illegal as far as I know.
Mr. Kennedy, let you
wrap it up. I will. Yes. And then the other issues, he admits to meeting with Chris Parakilis, the state prosecutor in Enfield. He said that I absolutely admit I called Chris Parakilis. I met with him. He should not nolly your case. He said, because of evidence here, you should not nolly your case. So here you have a judge meeting with him, and it's written in here. Chris Parakilis admits to it. He met with him. He called him once, called him twice, about a month later, 2 months later, and then he personally met with him. Judge Kaplan went to Enfield and met with Chris Parakilis in his office to tell him that he wants me prosecuted.
Okay. I've given you about double the normal time.
Yeah, I appreciate that.
But
I would just ask you, that's why I provided the documentation. Again, you don't read it, which is frustrating to me. But I want to make a record that you have a judge who's breaking the law and targeting people with restraining orders and arrest warrants, people who complain against him.
Thank you, Mr. Kennedy. I do want to let you know that we have all of your materials. I'm looking at it on my computer screen right now. It's 45 pages of materials that has been scanned in. I want you to know it's available to all members of the committee.
I thank you. You did say you would investigate Judge Kaplan back in 2005, but I don't know what you did. You personally guaranteed me that you would investigate Judge Kaplan and these allegations.
Mr. Kennedy, I asked you if you had filed any grievances against Judge Kaplan. We are more than willing to hear testimony from people, but the fact-finding and ethical considerations that you've raised are normally issues that are reserved for the Judicial Review Council. You and I have had that conversation before, and so just so we're clear, that is what I recommended to you several years ago.
Right. They dismissed the complaint based on time restraints. Right. I filed it 3 months after his ruling, and they dismissed it saying it was beyond the time frame.
Thank you very much, Mr. Kennedy. Are there any questions? If not, I appreciate your time.
No, I was told there wouldn't be any questions, that he was just going to get a pass this time, but it is a shame, I have to say.
Thank you, Mr. Kennedy. The next witness is Angel Morales. Is Angel Morales here? If not, are there any other members of the public who would like to testify before the committee? If not, the public hearing will be closed. Thank you.